You're listening to the World Footy Net podcast. Welcome to the World Footy Net podcast. You can email us at podcast@worldfooty.net or alternatively, post your comments on the World Footy Net Facebook page.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WFN podcast. This is the international edition. It's been a very busy week in England and Europe, and a couple of the regular crew are back to help talk about it. First of all, we'll welcome back the returning Mackem lad, Kurt Hunt, returning to us after a long absence. Kurt, great to have you back, man. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. I'm doing good, thanks.
Great, great. Well, also joining us is the infamous Angry Sherrard, who's replacing the lovely Louise Kay, who had to drop out for this episode. And
I gotta replace somebody.
yeah, you're a replacement player, so and I gotta say, Angry, we welcome you back and everything, but you don't have the looks.
Yeah. I don't. I know. I know. I have to look at myself every day. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, but so for those who are expecting to see Louise Kay here, just listen. You don't have to try to look and see what's going on.
Yeah, just blame me for it. It's all right. I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll get Louise back on another day. I'm working to get Faz back on to talk about this Liverpool stuff pretty soon. So we'll see. But let's get right back into the topic at hand. And I wanted to start with the English Premiership from the past weekend. We had a couple of marquee games in the mix. One was one I was particularly interested in Manchester United versus Arsenal. And this was possibly the most anticipated game of the week, even among many neutrals. But the game, in my mind, didn't really deliver as a spectacle. And I think that what it did deliver on is a lot of tenseness, particularly on the Arsenal side. But Arsenal seemed to be very poor at the end of the day, and I think it's getting really frustrating for a lot of Arsenal supporters to see what's happening. They seem to be regressing instead of going forward and progressing. So, but let me get you guys' thoughts. Angry, let me start with you. What do you think is going on? Well, first, what's your impression of that game?
I mean, it's not worse than the 6 or what was it, 8-2 thrashing, but I mean, 2-1's a very modest scoreline for that game because United could have easily gotten at least 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But there goes the breaks, and Arsenal could go from there. About Arsenal in general, I just think I don't know if they're regressing. I think they're just stuck in neutral.
Really?
Because we plotted their early results, and it's not like they've beaten anybody. I mean, Liverpool's been average to poor this last couple of weeks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't beaten a big club. They tied City, which is a good result. They lost to Chelsea and lost to United. So, I mean, I think they are where they would have been either way without Van Persie. It seems like, to me.
Well, what do you think? What do you think of Wenger? Does he have to go for things to really improve, or is he part of the problem, or is he not part of the problem? Do you think
he's part of the problem because he's getting rid of core players? That's why I think it's like that. I mean, because the players, he's a good manager. He's better than most managers in the Premier League. So there is little debate over that. But
gotcha.
when you get rid of players like Son, Fabregas, Nasri, Van Persie, core guys on your team, and now you're bringing Wilshire's just coming back. You're bringing in new guys. Santi Cazorla is doing well for his first season. Podolski seems a little lost. But, you got all this mixture. They shouldn't expect a championship winning team. They're fifth in Premier League right now. That's not bad for this team right now, especially because they're getting to know each other.
Right, right. And it's funny, you went down that list of players they've let go, and I was thinking, wow, what if they had all of those guys today?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, they
what
would at
kind of
least won a
amazing team.
trophy.
Yeah,
They would have won a trophy by now.
yeah, that's a very good point. Kurt, what's your impressions, particularly on that game? We'll start off with Arsenal.
Well, I think it was one of those. I think it was one of those matches where when you watch it, you know that one team deserved to win it. In this case, Manchester United. And I really think probably should have gotten more than they probably should have gotten more than two. And I only seen the highlights, so I can only speculate on what I've seen from there.
Yeah,
But having said that, Arsenal, all the new players that Arsenal have brought in, sorry, Podolski, Giroud, and then they've just gotten what's his name, Wilshere
yeah,
back. I think the chemistry in the team, it's it's quite good going on between the new players that have brought in, because it's not always that reason. I mean, if you take a look at Sunderland, buying new players, it's not always brilliant chemistry
hmm
as we've seen. But I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing from Arsenal. But defence, I'm not too sure about that defence, because we've seen against Reading, they were 4 goals down, and then they really know how to pick themselves back up, like they showed when they scored 7. They came from 4 goals down and then scored 7. So
yeah,
their defence can be slack at times, and then going forward they really make up for it.
yeah. What do you think has to happen for Arsenal to really improve? Do you think, Kurt?
Well, like I said, chemistry has a lot to do with it,
Hmm
because when you're bringing in quite a lot of new players, they don't always gel as well as you'd like them to. But I think Arsenal players are gelling quite well, and I think when they're fully aware with who they've got to their left, who they've got to their right, and who they've got up front, I think they can really start to improve. They lost Robin van Persie, which was, let's face it, was a really big loss to them. But they've picked themselves up quite well. I think Lucas Podolski is getting to be quite the target man to pick out, and I think Arsenal are going to do quite well this season. And I think what we're looking at right here is the Arsenal team that they've got for the foreseeable future. The players they've got right now, and don't really think they can gel as much as they are now. But like I said, it's all about chemistry. Whether they can build up a bit more chemistry, uh, you know, that's all that it comes down to at the end of the day. Whether they can play well as a team.
Yeah, I think both of you bring up good points. Wenger, I have a lot of respect for him, and I think that if he can hold on to the current players he has and let them gel over time, like Kurt said, then you got some quality there and you got some experience. But just as Louise said last week during her interview, one of the things she sees missing in Arsenal is a leader. There's nobody there like a Robin Van Persie that can really on the field take these guys further once they hit the pitch. So it'll be interesting. I'll wait to see what happens with them. I think they will be a factor later on, but right now I think they're underperforming. So we'll see what happens. But Kurt, while I got you, I wanted to ask you about Sunderland. Everyone that follows
Yeah.
WFN knows that you're Mackem through and through, but it has to be distressing to see the performance of Sunderland in the past few weeks. What are your thoughts on the club?
Well, that defeat against Aston Villa pretty much summed up what we've seen over the course of the season. Our players, for instance, Adam Johnson, James McLean, Stephen Fletcher, and Stefan Sessegnon, going forward, it's supposed to be a good four-way partnership,
Hmm
as it would be, but they're just not performing properly, and it's distressing to think that Adam Johnson last season played for the champions of England. I mean, you just wouldn't think that with his current performance. And
hmm
like I said in the article, they look absolutely bored out of their minds on Saturday against Villa. Simon Mignolet and Danny Rose are the only players that look happy to be there. And I'm not sure about the cause of improvement, but as we've seen from Connor Wickham, £9 million it cost him. He's still a young player, still got a lot to learn, but right now we haven't really got anything to lose. And I think we should bring him into the squad, because if we're not, we are really going to struggle. And last season, about this time, I thought relegation might be on the cards, but it never really was a factor. But I'm actually scared in case relegation is going to be a factor. 2 points from a drop zone. But having said that, we've played one less game than everyone else, because our match against Reading that got postponed due to a waterlogged pitch, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
due to play. Yeah, next month that game's going to take place. If, however, though, we did play Reading and got all 3 points from that game, we could be as far as 14th to 12th
Hmm.
instead of 2 places from the relegation zone. And like I mentioned with Arsenal, chemistry, that's really important. And with Steve Bruce, as soon as our American owner, Ellis Short, bought full stakes in the club, Steve Bruce didn't stand a chance. 1 week in, Steve Bruce was fired. And I can't really say that our performances have improved since Martin O'Neill came in. Well, but they have improved, so to speak.
Hmm.
That 3 months we had, the first 3 months under Martin O'Neill, that was spectacular. But now we're just really starting to drop. And I heard a rumor from Facebook that Ellis Short and Martin O'Neill had had a meeting.
Uh-oh.
I'm not too sure what that was about, but
A clear the air meeting.
yeah, exactly. If Martin O'Neill can't let us survive, then I can't really think of that many managers that possibly can.
Yeah,
And
it's with Sun. I've watched a couple of their games now, and I've had the same impression that I had when watching Arsenal. They have a lot of talent on the field, but they're not performing for some reason. And a lot of the players from last season aren't coming up to the standard this season. I read an article this morning on SoccerNet about O'Neill challenging Gardner to help end the scoring woes. I think they're solid, but it's like, what's going on with the scoring, with Saha, with all these guys that I thought were going to be putting it in the back of the net. I think that there, like you said, maybe there's an issue with chemistry that's going to solve itself over time. But let me ask you this: do you think O'Neill really is in trouble right now?
well, look at it this way. When Niall Quinn, when he stepped down as chairman, Ellis Short came in. And Ellis Short from Missouri in the USA, that would pretty much say that he hasn't really been a Sunderland fan all his life.
Yeah.
He came to England looking for some good investments. And one thing that really really bugs me about Ellis Short, though, his worth is £3.5 billion. That's how much he's got, and he won't even invest 30 million to spend on players. And that's something that really, really bugs me. And Ellis Short had absolutely no tolerance towards Steve Bruce whatsoever. When he came in, he was like, "All right, Steve, you're fired. I'm going to bring in someone that can actually do the job right." So, compare Niall Quinn to Ellis Short.
Yeah,
Ellis Short doesn't really have that much tolerance for poor results. So I really think Martin O'Neill could be in trouble here. And I
yeah.
really hope we pick up the results, because if we don't, if we end up getting relegated, I can say for sure that that's going to ruin my entire summer.
You know what? I don't think that's going to happen. We'll get into this later, but the three down in the relegation zone right now, I don't think they're going anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think we're
hopefully.
going to be safe. Well, let's move on over to the bitter rivals for Sunderland, Newcastle. They've done a little bit better in the league, but they're weaker than they were last year, and they tied Liverpool this past weekend. What does that tell us about both sides? Where I think expectations for both of them were actually higher this season than before. Um, Angry, do you have a thought on either Newcastle or Liverpool? They're kind of mid-table right now.
Yeah, they're mid-table. Newcastle would want to be higher where they're at. stating that they haven't lost anybody, which amazed me. I thought they would at least lost 3 or 4 of their guys to bigger clubs, but they stayed put. But it's not like they've lost many games. They only lost 2 games. They just tied a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, Liverpool's kind of in the same spot, but they, I don't know. Is Steven Gerrard is the magical Steven Gerrard getting old?
I was saying that last season.
I mean, nobody. I mean, I don't know how many people. I don't know if people talk about this in England, Kurt, but I just haven't seen like CVG would win at least maybe 4 or 5 games by himself in his heyday. Like just with that 90th minute or late winner that nobody expects, but he does it. I just don't see that anymore. And I see Luis Suarez carrying more of the load, which,
Yeah.
is fine. But, I mean, he's got all this other stuff. People are going to be hassling him. Media's going to hassle him. He's going to die because, he's South American. And, that's the culture of their football there. So, and people are going to give him stick for that. So, he's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah. He's been a leader in the past, but today I think the age is kind of creeping up on him. But I got to tell you, I'll get Kurt's feelings on this, but I think that Liverpool, I think their problem is kind of up in the administration level. I think you had the manager you needed in Dalglish because you have a guy who's proven it before with Liverpool. He's proven it with Blackburn. He loves the club immensely. You needed to give him time. You bring in Brandon, and I don't get. Yeah, he was successful with Swansea and everything, but he doesn't have the legacy that Dalglish has. If you give him time, you might have another Ferguson in a few years, if from a Liverpool point of view. And so I think that they're their own worst enemy. And I'll try to get Faz on because I like to get her thoughts on this too. But Kurt, I'd like to get your feelings, your opinions, both on Liverpool and that other team from the Northeast. I don't want to say the name there.
I mean, pretty much the match at the weekend between the Skunks and Liverpool.
Yeah.
It pretty much shows us how classless they actually are. I mean, that red card for Colaccini, I mean, that was a blatant red card. You can't have no complaints with that. And they still find a way to try and protest it. And Newcastle are just everything that's wrong with football today. I mean, they're going to get relegated.
You think so?
Yeah, it might not look that way now, but they're going to get relegated. I still think Liverpool are a good side, but the fans have to stop living in the past. The
Yeah,
team's only half as good as
absolutely.
it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, they always try to bring in new talent. Henderson for etc. They brought in Henderson thinking he would be some kind of future superstar, £24 million, and he hasn't made an impact whatsoever. He's only scored a few goals so far for Liverpool, if that. And it's just not working to their advantage. And I think Liverpool probably turn into the new Leeds. Over the past few seasons, I've seen them turn into title contenders, to a Champions League team, then to a Europa League team. Now they're what I'd pretty much call a top 10 side. And if I'm going to include the Skunks into this conversation, I'd have to say they do look like a strong side, but I know I've said this time and time again, but Demba Ba will be gone in January, so we'll see. There's going to be some unfortunate Champions League team that's going to buy them too, sit them out on the bench, and then sell them to Gateshead United or something.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely not as strong as they were last year. There's something that's amiss. I don't know if it's something going on in the locker room or what, but they don't seem to. I don't fear them like I did last season. Last season they were just on a roll, and this season they look like they can be had. And so we'll see. I mean, it's still early for everybody. I think there's a lot of settling that still has to happen. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, all I'm saying is give Brendan a season and a half. If he doesn't do anything after a season and a half, then you could do something. But don't get rid of him after the season's over because you're struggling or you don't make the Champions League. That's when the horrible administration. That's when I just like, you know what? I can't feel sorry for this team anymore. Sorry.
Well, I mean, was it 3 managers in 2 years?
Yeah.
I would have said the same thing with Dalglish. Yeah, just for his relationship with the team, out of respect, give him a year and a half.
Yeah.
He's a better candidate than Brendan Rodgers, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Brendan could get him going. It's gonna take. I mean, it's gonna take him a little while, but I think he can get him going playing the way he wants him to play.
Well, we'll see. I mean, hopefully Luis Suarez won't get hurt because that's what's carrying the team right now.
That's true. That's true.
Brendan Rodgers should have stayed at Swansea.
Absolutely.
I think it was probably fame that drove him to Liverpool so he could get noticed. But he should have stayed. He should have stayed at Swansea. It isn't going to end well for him.
Yeah, I don't see it. I really don't. But we'll see. We'll see. So
I'll have faith. I'll have faith in you, Brendan. I'll have faith in you.
Okay. All right, then. All right, we got it settled then. So we'll see if Angry's going to be right here. Will they give him a chance?
Now, if he messes up, I will rib him on the site.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if they do sack him at the end of the year, will you start watching football for a year?
No, that's not going to happen. Because that's more likely to happen than the other thing we promised.
Right.
Greece to win the Euros, was it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
That was a close call, boy.
I was partying real hard when Germany knocked them out.
All right, great stuff. All right, well, any other games from the English League over the weekend that caught you guys' fancy?
How about Tottenham losing to Wigan? I know Hooligan be so happy about that.
So what's that mean for AVB?
I don't know because
That's a hiccup,
I mean, they booed his selection of putting in Adebayor instead. They subbed out Defoe, and Defoe I guess soaked off to the dressing room, and AVB wasn't happy about that. So maybe there's some stuff going on. Plus, I don't like AVB, so
it's funny. I liked him until he went to Spurs.
I mean. Yeah, I started to dislike him towards the end of Chelsea, and then it's gotten the full drive now. I'm rooting against him.
There you go. What about you, Kurt? Anything in particular? Spurs? Anybody else from the weekend?
The Spurs match versus Wigan, that was something special. I mean, to say that Wigan have about as much atmosphere per game as you can find in a dustbin. And, not to hate on Wigan or anything, because I like Wigan, to be honest. I like their manager, but now I think they're probably gonna do what they do every season. Have a good spell one time, then look like relegation.
Beat the top 3 in the last part of the season. Always crop up and ruin somebody's day, but they can't really do much on their own, it seems. The only other. For me, the only other game that was interesting was Chelsea-Swansea, because Chelsea, I've been waiting for them to fall all season long, and they just won't. They won't die. And, if you were watching the Champions League today, they just seem to get it done. They got to get done against Manchester United in the League Cup, and today they snatch another injury time winner. I got to give it up to them right now. But I'll keep an eye on them, too. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, Chelsea are only 1 point from being top. I mean, you can't really write them off as title contenders just yet.
No. In fact, I think they'll have a lot to say. More so that I fear Chelsea more than I fear right now Manchester City. And Manchester City has a lot more talent than anybody in the league, but they're not a team yet. Yeah. And so we'll see what happens with that. But speaking of that, let's move on a little bit to Europe and the Champions League. We just had the the last 2 days of action. A lot of interesting results. The first thing, though, I want to ask both of you guys about, and there's a video that I'm going to play. Did both of you see Mancini's press conference before the Ajax game?
I've heard about it.
No, I didn't.
Basically, Mancini is getting a little tired of being asked questions about his future, his dedication to Manchester City, and why they aren't doing better. And his response was, they haven't won anything in 40-something years, and now they've won a couple of trophies, and they should be given more respect, and they're doing fine and everything. He kind of just lost it a little bit. So if you get a chance to read that, I'm gonna, in the next part of this podcast here, I'm just going to ask you your reaction. So take a look at that video, and for those listening on YouTube, you can watch it on the video on the YouTube channel.
I don't understand why you continue to ask me last year, last market. This is finished. Why? For which reason? Why we continue to ask me? Last year you had the other chance to go. I stay here because my work is here. I worked for 2 years. I built with the chairman, with the owner, this team. We won 3 trophies in 2 years. For 15 years you didn't win, never. Take to have respect for the people sometime.
Okay. So
I don't understand why we continue to ask me this. Why?
All right, let's leave Friday's comments aside then. I respect that.
You asked me one question. I'm polite because I answered your question and the other question. I also didn't answer because I'm here to talk about West Ham. I'm polite because I answered. I said it's true. Every year I can have 2 or 3 new situations where I can go. I want to stay here because I decided to stay here in this club because I worked for 2 years in Dartford. I work hard. Now in the future will be easy because the strong work was when you have a new team. The strong work is the first 2 years when you need to build a new team. But we won 3 trophies in 2 years. I think that they should have respect for this, for me, for the club, for the players. I don't understand why every time we talk about this.
But what do you think about Mancini? Do you think, I'll start with you, Angry. Do you think he's kind of losing it right now, or is he just frustrated at the press and everything else is fine?
I think he's losing it. I think that might be bias on my part. But I think he's losing it. I mean, you can't have those breakdowns. I mean, we've seen those breakdowns before. Like, somehow it got leaked out that you could have been going to Monaco. Don't know how that leaked out. Don't know why you'd be talking to other clubs. I mean, maybe you're looking for an exit strategy, but still. I mean, people are going to talk about that. It's not going to be a secret anymore if there's more than 2 people talking about it. So, yeah. And his tactics haven't been that great. And he wants somebody to blame. But he can't blame anybody anymore. So now everybody's talking to him like, yeah, so what is this? What is that? And he's just tired of it. And I'm sick of him saying, oh, well, it'll take us like maybe 5-10 years. Like you're going to be there that long. I mean,
you just paid £400 million on a team. You don't need to wait. This ain't a project. You bought the best of the best of the best, and from every corner of the globe. Forget about this. Oh, we need to jail and stuff. Everybody has European experience, including him. Okay, I'm starting to go off. So
go ahead. I love it.
But I do. This reminds me of the crack up that Keegan had, but on a bigger scale. Keegan didn't have the team that Mancini has, and I think the mind games, I think the pressure and everything makes you respond this way. If everything is fine, you wouldn't care about what the press says. Am I going to Monaco? Well, I'm not going to say anything. Let everybody stew over it. But everything seems to bother them. Every question, if you watch that video, every question bothered him. And that's the reaction of a guy who's on the edge, in my opinion. Kurt, well, what about you? Is Mancini cracking up in your opinion, or he seem like he's under pressure, or you think or are we just blowing smoke here?
I'm not too sure what's going on behind the scenes there. I'm not too sure. I mean, we've seen him pretty much lose it after the match when he felt Balotelli should have had that penalty, and I will admit I found that pretty hilarious. But I think Mancini will probably stay there for the foreseeable future.
Really?
I don't really think he'll go to do anything on international duties because he's the manager of the champions of England. I mean, why would he leave that to go and play for some international team that's not even doing that well?
I think what might prompt that is if he can't get, I mean, they're all but out of the Champions League, and I think there's a real fear that they're not going to actually win the league this year either. And if those things happen, I think that the pressure is one that he's going to start to act more, erratic, much like Keegan did back in the mid '90s when United were 12 points behind and they slowly crept up on them and just destroyed Keegan's ability to function in front of the press. And I could foresee something like that happening, and then somebody might pull the trigger. It might not be a situation where Mancini will just leave himself. That ownership might say, hey, we spent all this money, and we're not getting the return we thought we were going to get. And maybe that might prompt a little issue. But it depends. It depends on what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know. And like you say, he could still be there after a while. And that team they have enough talent where they can gel and come up and beat anybody. So a lot depends on results, I think, to take the pressure off of him.
It's a real bad thing, at least to the team, when you crack like that. Like, it affects them too. They're like, so is this the manager we're supposed to be trusting? I don't know if they trust him anyway because he tends to blame them for a lot of stuff in games. But, cracking like that, I mean, what happened in Newcastle? What happened with Rafa Benitez when he kind of cracked against United? It has an effect on the whole team. It has an effect on how they feel. They're like, should we trust him? He can't hold his composure against, this manager. So why should we trust him and being able to do what we need him to do? So
right, and that's a good point from you because you were a professional player, and so you can relate to what you would expect out of your manager. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Those top class guys, man, they might not like what they see with this dude in front of the press. So it'll be interesting. Anything else? Let me start with you, Angry. Moving on to the Champions League, the games in the past 2 days. From what you've seen, anything interests you as far as the game you want to talk about?
Probably that Real Madrid-Dortmund match, because that's the only match I was able to watch. But, it was a good match. Dortmund did well in the first half, and somehow, Real somehow got a kind of lucky goal. It was a good free kick, but I don't know what the keeper was doing to let it go in, but they've made it interesting, and I think they kept City in it. Like, if they went out, they'll probably end up getting one of the spots. At least it helped them that they tied, and neither one of them broke away. So, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Kurt? What have you seen in the Champions League that's been interesting or maybe surprising or disappointing?
I watched a very exciting match tonight. Chelsea versus Shakhtar. I mean,
amazing.
I actually really liked that match, especially the first 20 minutes. So it was just pure entertainment. I mean, obviously, when the first goal went in, Sky Sports were that stupid that they were actually showing the replay during the goal because they didn't actually expect it to be a goal. Just the way Torres scored, kind of was ball kick and then it just deflected off him. And then William scored for Shakhtar, and then that goal from Oscar, he was almost at the halfway line,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like 40 something yards, man.
yeah, that goal was that goal was fantastic. He did good to get that on target. The goalkeeper was off his line because he had to run out. He had to get his head on it to try and clear it away. But he failed in doing that, and then it came to 2-2 when Williams scored his second goal. And then I think Rolando probably could have got a couple of goals near the end, maybe. And Shakhtar maybe could have won it, but then Victor Moses came on as a substitute and then turned the game on its head with the last kick of the game, or the last head of the game, rather.
Yeah.
It was a very exciting match.
Yeah, I was impressed with Moses against Manchester United. That's the player there. But yeah, pulling out games like that's the mark of a champion, you know, and that was pretty interesting to see. My game, of course, was the big game that I wanted to watch was Manchester United today against Braga. Looked hard for most of the game. United did. Braga, the much better side. I mean, they were pressuring, pushing, seemed to want it more, and then United scored 3 goals in the last 2 minutes of the game. Started by that man, Robin van Persie, and really, really sweet touch on his goal from outside the box with his left foot. And you know, I don't know, much like Suarez at Liverpool, I'm not sure where Manchester United would be without RVB right now. And he was the catalyst when he came on as a substitute. He was the catalyst for the turnaround. And then after that, of course, Rooney and Chicharito, you know, finished out the scoring. So they're comfortable top of Group H going in there. But I guess the meltdown game for Manchester City on Tuesday when they couldn't overcome Ajax, but they did draw the game, and they still have that thread of a hope, like Sherrard said earlier. So wouldn't it be interesting if they survive?
Nah, let's hope they lose.
Yeah, well, you don't have to convince me of anything, but and a lot of things would have to happen outside of their game for them to get back by. But football's a funny game, and
yes, it is.
You never know what's going to happen. But all very interesting stuff, and you know, we still have a lot of football to look forward to coming up this weekend. Anything coming up that you especially want to look out for, and not just in England, but I know Sherrard's interested in what's going on in Spain. What are you looking forward to seeing now coming up on the weekend, Sherrard?
I just hope that Valencia can keep being consistent. You know, we've been really inconsistent in the La Liga. Haven't been doing too well, kind of in the middle of the table right now. So I'm just hoping for the consistency, and I would like to see a response from Atletico from their loss against Valencia last weekend. You know, this is their first loss, and Falcao didn't score on the night. So I would definitely like to see their response. And other than that, pretty much, you know how Real and Barca are going to do. Somehow one of the two of them are going to score a goal. Yeah. Yeah, I heard like in the weekend it was the first time in forever that Messi and or Ronaldo didn't score. Kind of interesting, but other than that, I hope that Valencia can keep it up when they're met. I really hope we keep on winning and at least get that top 4. That's pretty much what's important to me right now.
Well, Kurt, what about you? Anything particularly you want to be looking forward to? You guys have Everton at Goodison Park.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure what the upcoming fixtures are about with the other teams in the Premier League, but like you said, we've got Everton away. You know, I'm really looking forward to that. We haven't won at Goodison Park in 12 years, so I think we might lose. But, you know, I mean, when I said I was looking forward to it, I was being sarcastic.
Yeah. I caught the sarcasm, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it at all. If we lose, then we could very well be 2 points from the relegation zone, and that's not a place where we want to be. I'm still holding the grudge from last year's quarter-final against Everton.
Well, the way you can look at it is you're due. You're due for something here.
Yep.
Yeah,
maybe O'Neal can bring it together. Check it out, man, because if they win, you'll be happy as anything. So.
Yeah.
Check it
Well,
out. Yeah. Well, my team's playing Villa, and that's a team I really want to beat because they're the reason that United lost the title last year. If you
Yeah.
remember, they had the initiative until they lost to Villa with 3 games to go. And then Manchester City came back in and never relinquished the lead. So we owe them. But 2 big games on Sunday, City and Spurs at the Etihad. I'll be pulling, believe it or not, and excuse me, hooligan, wherever you are, I'm going to be pulling for Spurs because I can't stand City with a passion. And I want to see Mancini in the press conference after a loss to Spurs. I just want to be there with popcorn and and watch what happens.
My 2 least favorite managers are playing each other.
Yeah, how about that?
Hope they get in a fist fight and go to jail or something.
Yeah.
You know what would be funny?
What's that?
If Darren Bent starts for Manchester and then he snaps both of his legs.
Oh man!
Dang.
Oh,
Dang.
no love lost there, man.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, he wouldn't really care anyway because he still gets paid at the end of the week.
Yeah.
True.
Be happy on the bench. Well, there's also the Chelsea-Liverpool game, and I hope I get Faz in for next week after this game because I think that Liverpool are in real trouble now. I understand that we want to give Brendan Rodgers a chance and everything, but
Give him a chance.
I think Chelsea going to win this game going away. That's just my feeling. Because, the manager, John Terry, for Chelsea, he's really put together. Oh, wait a minute. Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's who the manager is.
No, I mean, Di Matteo is doing a job. He is doing it. I got to give him credit. That they didn't fall apart like I thought they would. And so I have to give the man credit for keeping it together and keeping them up towards the top. Because like Kurt said earlier, I think they will be a factor late in the season for the title.
Well, I'll continue to give John Terry credit then.
Okay. Well, guys, that'll be it for this week. Just wanted to touch on a few games, jump in that Champions League stuff that we had today.
Yeah, there was one match I forgot to mention and all. Bayern Munich versus Lille.
Oh, good grief. Bayern
6-1
Munich.
for Bayern.
5 goals in the first, 30 minutes or something?
Yeah.
Bayern scored.
Pizarro scored a hat-trick and all within 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was ugly. I'll have those videos up here shortly. But guys, thanks again for the banter. I'm looking forward to some more games. Looking forward to the podcast next week where we can talk about it a little bit more. And you guys have a good evening, and we'll talk to you later.